F-16 Wild Weasels are on the move, but this time it's from Japan to Diego Garcia, adding more to the force posturing that we're seeing in the Middle East. And this is significant because those Wild Weasels are responsible for suppression of enemy air defenses, going in there, disrupting, degrading, suppressing, destroying enemy surface-to-air missile sites. This is not just another chess piece that's sliding towards Iran. This is a Pacific-based asset that's being pulled out of the Western Pacific theater to join the buildup. We'll talk about what that means in a second because the implications go both directions. And when you combine F-22's that have now departed Lakenheath that are moving towards the Middle East, you have two platforms that I've said all along are non-negotiable before any serious operation against Iran might kick off. They're both in motion now. And I've been tracking this buildup for quite a while, and we've been seeing the fingerprint of Operation Midnight Hammer. Now, I have also said this will not be Operation Midnight Hammer 2.0 because all the red lines or the goals that we're inferring from what has been said from the president is that this will require sustained operations in order to achieve these objectives. And then the scale of the Wild Weasel, those F-16 Block 50 and Block 52 buildup alone dwarfs what we saw in Operation Midnight Hammer. Now we're doing a full podcast series with F-16 Wild Weasel pilots that flew in Operation Midnight Hammer. And I'm not going to say the number right now because we do have to do some clearance things with public affairs, but stay tuned for that. I will just say that the buildup we're seeing from Block 50 and Block 52 F-16, specifically that suppression of enemy air defense, that Wild Weasel F-16 is significant and significantly more. We now have 30 that are in the region or making their way to the region. Wouldn't be surprised if we potentially see more going that way. But again, this is a much larger number than we saw in Operation Midnight Hammer. But first, I want to talk about General Jack Keane, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and some of the things that he is saying, or it's being implied that he is saying inside those inner circles.
Prolonged conflict in the region. It comes after the president said last week that if no deal is reached over Iran's nuclear program within the next 10 days, he could take military action. Now, according to that Axios report, they wrote, quote, while Keane was all in on the Venezuela operation, he has been more cautious in the discussions around Iran, two sources said. While Keane sees the stakes of a major operation in Iran as higher with a greater risk for entanglement and American casualties. President Trump hit back on Truth Social, writing, quote, the story does not attribute this vast wealth of knowledge to anyone and is 100% incorrect. General Keane, like all of us, would like not to see war, but if a decision is made on ongoing against Iran at a military level, it is his opinion that it will be something easily won. President Trump went on to say he'd prefer to make a deal, but if they don't, it will be a very bad day for Iran.
Okay, so obviously the president is saying that this is completely unfounded or untrue. Who knows, right? But I got to believe, or at least I would hope to believe, that any military planner looking at this realizes that this is going to be a significant operation. So I'm going to make an assumption and say that I believe that General Keane, obviously fully aware of how this might just ensnarl the U.S. into sustained or a longer type conflict in the region. And then the operation in Venezuela, this is apples and oranges when we're comparing the two here. And even comparing to Operation Midnight Hammer, while significant, but you have two different countries, two different capabilities that present different problem sets. Venezuela, I mean, where you remove the politics from it, absolute golf clap when it comes down to military operations and conducting military operations. When you have $1 trillion army and military, that's what you're expected to be able to go out there and do and prosecute. Now, the interesting wrinkle here that I'm personally curious about, when we look at Iran and we look at its close ties with Russia and China, those ties existed inside Venezuela. So now on a bigger stage, so the Russians and the Chinese have incentives to help Iran out in this case. Basically, one of their, looking at it as one of their proxy forces. And I think the answer is probably so, right? We see this play out in Ukraine to a certain extent. By the United States helping out Ukraine, there are ulterior motives there for sure. And if you don't believe that, I don't know what I can do for you. But there's now reporting coming out that the Chinese are considering selling, or the Iranians are close to purchasing the CM-302, which is a supersonic anti-ship missile. This is designated under the YJ-12 class, and it's a ramjet-powered supersonic anti-ship cruise missile, which again doesn't take much to infer the problem that would create for us in the region, the United States and allies. capable of speeds of Mach 2.5 to Mach 3. Carries a high explosive warhead, estimated between 200 and 250 kilograms. And it uses an active radar homing in the terminal phase, meaning that it's going to utilize some most likely off-board sensor to cue it. But once it gets going at a certain range, that missile is going to guide on its own. Now, just looking at these things, they look rather large, but we have seen the Iranians with their fast boats out there utilizing shorter range anti-ship cruise missiles and what they claim to be hypersonic missiles, although usually it's just below the threshold. Nonetheless, these are all problem sets. And it's like if you kick the hornet's nest, at some point you might be able to kill a bunch of hornets with your hornet spray, but undoubtedly one or two are going to get through. And again, I've said this all along as well. If I'm Iran, I am backed into the corner here if this does go kinetic. And now it is an existential threat. Operation Midnight Hammer and the 12-day war, egg on their face, but they knew they were probably going to come out on the backside of it. Now the rhetoric or the comms that is coming out that it's going to be a regime change. Now it's time for it to be done. So now you have an entity that is facing an existential threat. So if that is you, you're going to pull out all the stops. You're going to throw everything you have because it's the last ditch. It's your last chance at survival. And again, if I'm Iran, I want to hit a U.S. Navy ship. I want to hit a U.S. Army base, Air Force base. I want to take out assets. That is a win. Like, we have everything to lose when it comes to this. So again, this is a big problem set when it comes to it. But we are seeing just this massive buildup. And they've already said, it's on par with the invasion of Iraqi freedom. Problem sets are definitely going to arise when it comes to sustainment. We talked about it yesterday. Having the USS Gerald R. Ford in there gives the Navy greater depth and sustainability. However, it's only for really a couple days. You need more carriers to conduct sustained operations if we're looking at weeks and months on end. So again, we'll see how this one plays out. If you like this type of content, make sure you leave a comment down below. It helps to get shown to more people. It lets me know to keep creating it. I'll see you next time.